What's going on, Soul Nation, and welcome to another No Rest for the Wicked video. Thomas has actually been incredibly communicative, incredibly busy over on the official Discord, and he's given us some more insights into the state of the game, the state of the update, when we might start to expect it. If you guys saw my last video, we talked about my predictions, maybe missing out on the October window, but there is still some hope for November. But they are cooking, and it is something deeply exciting to see. But there is some really good information in this video for those of you who are just absolutely hungry for what's to come next. If you guys have questions and so much more, Thomas on the Discord spends his time answering our questions, and that's what we're going to do a deep dive into today, which is a nice little break, a nice little reprieve from all the culture war gaming stuff that is going on. But let's not waste your time. You clicked on this video for a reason. Let's get into it, and it kicks off with this. Thomas writes, folks, we're just working on it. We're trying to do a lot with this big update, and it requires a lot of work. With updates that introduce entirely new story setups, cinematics, etc., it's not like we can just split things up and release it in small bits. That wouldn't really make anybody happy, since you need to tell that story, and it's not just a short part of that story and then just cut somewhere right in the middle. Let's cook for a while. We've got everything defined, and we are hard at work, and we really want to release the best version of this instead of rushing something that people won't be happy with. I think that we are generally needing to put way more focus in on the systematic nature of Wicked so that people don't scream quote-unquote dead game while we're working on the update, but also that you can still play and get something out of it in time. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that dead game meme, because it comes up again later in the discussion of the Discord messages. But he also then follows this up with, folks, regarding the updates, every now and then some of the updates are just going to take longer. The update that we're working on right now is essentially double the size of the world and introduces all the new story stuff, and always want that new stuff has to be supported by all the systems. So in a lot of ways, this is a lot more like an expansion rather than just smaller content updates that we've dropped before. And this time it isn't an update that we split up in any way because of the next beefy story update. So you'll expect to be able to play all of it and feel super satisfied after. Now, the first Hades 2 update just dropped, and that was 5 months after their early access launch. And I'm a gamer myself. I know it can be annoying having to wait and playing more stuff, but I think that the best course of action is just to focus in on making a great product, because ultimately that's what matters. In a year or two from now, no one's going to care how many months this update took to drop, but people will care of us generally having shipped an amazing product. So hang in tight. We're hard at work, and we really want to get this right. And I think this is a really solid message, but it does still, no matter what, going to take the burn. I've seen the burn in the comments. I've seen the burn over on Twitter where people are like, where is the update? Like, I'm really looking forward to it. And from a communications perspective, my developer brain as a software engineer myself goes, the less that they're actually talking to us, the more they're actually working. But it still as a gamer doesn't feel fun and fair. And in the last video, Carol was talking about how they're working to improve these updates, how they're working to kind of post some news over on Steam, the Steam page, and more. And I think Thomas will touch on that here in just a minute as well. But that, I think, is a good way to start this video with what he's saying here, because this gives us a better look at the amount and the heavy lifting nature of this. So his words to me probably mean the game is not going to get updated in October. I'd love to be wrong about this in this case. It does make it look like November is a better possibility, assuming that they have all their ducks in a row. They've been working on it for a while. It's not like all of this work started in July. A lot of this different work has started at different times in the development history. But he goes on to continue to share because they are asking him questions. So let's get into it. This is going to get into multiplayer. This is going to get into builds. This is going to get into healing. If you're interested in a healing job, I hope you enjoy what Thomas has to say about that. Let's talk about multiplayer scaling first and foremost. When asked by Sidigor, and hopefully I'm not butchering the name, says, I wonder how much the bosses will scale with co-op. Maybe we will get dungeons in the future if we can build a healer class. And Thomas responds to this saying, right now, with 2 players, you're seeing 100% HP scaling. With 3 players, you see 150 HP scaling. And with 4 players, you see 200 HP scaling. And damage goes up by 15, 30, and then 50. With boss behaviors will also change while you're playing in co-op. And then when asked, this sounds good, but maybe a little less than expected, and you could maybe add some extra hardcore layers to add on top of that for HP damage and movesets. And Thomas says, these numbers are obviously still changing. This is just what's come up after the recent playtest, and because of previous numbers were way too high. And so they've tried it out with higher numbers. Ultimately, the real test is how do we all feel when we go hands-on with the multiplayer, hopefully here in a month-ish, so to speak. All right, anyway, he continues, especially when asked, is I'm a fan of this, completely changes the dynamic. If the healer dies, obviously in relation to resurrections, he says, yep, we hear you. We've been making a lot of changes in enemy AI, and that ought to actually act as a quite bit of a smarter kind of AI playstyle, like trying to attack you when they see that you're healing, or generally trying to take out the weakest link in the group first. And so from a multiplayer perspective, it sounds like this is going to get really interesting really quickly. And that's the thing I think a lot of us are waiting for. Not just more content. I know there's definitely the content, single players out there, and this update will hopefully help satisfy that hunger, but also for the multiplayer of us out there wanting to team up, take down these bosses, and hopefully there's plenty for us to do in a multiplayer setting. Marbean asks, system to pick up res fallen teammates? We talked about this just kind of briefly in the previous post, and he says, we had to resurrect through consumables, but we really didn't love it. A lot of folks on the team really just wanted a free res, but I'm pushing for a res only through runes so that teams have to have a dedicated healer person. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about that. I think that ultimately makes it, if it's rune based, if you end up getting to where you don't need to be able to res your players, well, maybe you just take a different skill in this case, or somebody wants to maybe play that paladin role and then you have a healer. I don't know. I think this opens up a lot of different potential, but it's going to be interesting because if everybody can't res, you don't want your resurrection to die, the person who can do that. And so that's going to be strategically protect the healer, which could be kind of fun. And then you got the friendly fire aspect, which could be also a little bit fun and more. Anyway, speaking of fun, just as kind of a huge shout out, YouTube is making some changes. And from the community aspect, we are starting to see some interesting things to be shown. So thank you to Surul, Merc, Textured, Ahedgog, and Sonia for making the top 6 for the week over on my MMO channel. As this feature rolls out here on Prime, I'm looking forward to kind of checking in with you guys each and every week to see who is the most engaged out of all of you. And in this case, Merc takes it with 100 freaking comments over on the MMO channel. So thank you, Merc, and thanks to everybody. If you guys enjoy the content here, you like No Rest for the Wicked, you like action RPGs, you like my breakdown and thoughts, especially as a Catholic, yeah, you're already in the right spot. You can totally check it out. And if you do, be sure to hit that subscribe button so I can welcome you in, just like Liver Plus. Welcome to the channel. But outside of that, let's get back into it. We've already known a hardcore mode is coming, but Sir Gigor, he did ask, are we going to get a hardcore mode? Basically, if you die, you're done, like you got to start over. And he says, yes, that actually code is already in place. Now, does that mean it's coming in the next update? Honestly, I think it'd be awesome to see if that was the case. However, I'm not going to sit here and say that Thomas is committing to it. Just the work has been done. Now, when he was asked, have you tried the game Drova? He goes, no, I really haven't heard of it. Just been heads down, playtesting, and working on Wicked, as well as tweeting, and as well as kicking up some drama in the online world. But you can't say anything online without offending somebody, which that's just the way it is, right? If you try not to offend people, well, then you're really not saying anything important in my mind. Anyway, Thomas goes on regarding builds and healing. When asked that on a side note, what weapons do you use in Wicked? Like you never mentioned your playstyle. And he says, I don't really have one build that I'm playing, as he's playing all the different builds, but my main one was Greatsword and / Shattered Sun. He goes on to say, I usually go for a min-max glass cannon build, so equip load for normal weight, no points in health, and everything into the main attributes, and then just roll and parry. When he says what runes are used, he goes Whirlwind, Damage Surge, Blink, and Heal Aura. And the reason ends up being, rather than just using potions, Heal Aura is actually going to heal others in multiplayer, so he's kind of having that already pre-set up. And he goes, he's usually not playing on the live builds any much, which I think checks out. He's testing, there's nothing really to do, the live build is stable, and more. Now, regarding the issues of communication, Sir Godor writes, like I have written before, the problem is not that you need time to finish the project, it's the lack of communication, and for the past months that we can expect in the future. And yeah, and Thomas says, yeah, we should have communicated ahead of time that this particular update, it was going to take more time. In fact, this was where it got kind of confusing, because originally they were talking about a roadmap, but apparently that was coming from Perfect Division, that they wanted to kind of share out an updated roadmap. A roadmap is only as good as if you can deliver on it. And I think essentially some of the points that the team has lost this round, if you think about it in that kind of terms, is that their roadmap isn't what we've received. We ended up getting different content, which we were talking about the Crucible update. So they shifted focus in on that. And because they have that roadmap, it still looks like they aren't living up to what they originally committed to, even though I feel like this update is going to deliver a lot of those features that are all kind of coming in at the same time based off of user feedback. And so because things can change, it is a blessing and a curse to have that roadmap out there. I would personally love to see something, some update along the lines, especially after this main update, when we start talking about the road to release. I think that's going to be important, and hopefully we're going to see that happen from time to time. But like I said, Thomas kind of alluded to the concept of a dead game. And this is something that has always irked me as both a gamer and a content creator, because a lot of people obsess over things and they don't have the full picture. And because they don't have a full picture of a game and its health and its community, you end up making assumptions based off of the bad actors out there who've maybe killed and canceled their game. So I don't think there's any risk of that happening, but games do have ebbs and flows that are natural part of the community. But let's go ahead and dive in. Jalik says, Thomas, I'm sure you've seen a lot of people asking questions regarding the update, stuff like dead game question and where's update and so on. Would it be possible for someone in the team to create a small news post on Steam and the Wicked forums to just tell everybody in short what you're telling us here? Just something like, we are still at work on the next update, but we want to surprise you all with what's coming next. Something like this that you said yesterday on X, I think would put a lot of people at ease and that aren't as active here and don't see the answers here. And Thomas says he's talking to people about that today. And that's good. This is really good news. That's something that we definitely need to see and feel. And he also says that regarding if there's any performance updates going to be included, that Carol is going to be the one who is going to need to provide that update. When it's all said and done, like, I really freaking love this game and I play it as much as I can, but with the lack of XP in Crucible, like, I've been doing my mage leveling and I'm slowly inching to level 30, but I feel like I have to make this choice. I got to go out and grind versus I got to do Crucible. So I'm really personally looking forward to the next update so I can continue to invest in my different characters and my different builds, especially when sitting down and hanging out and playing this game with each and every one of you. I think the multiplayer update is going to obviously breathe in new life. The new content's going to breathe in new life, but this is still that early access process. So if you're feeling angry by all that, you got to just take a break. You know, here's the best news of all. There are so many really great games out there right now. Have you played Metaphor? If you haven't and you like turn-based anime RPGs, holy freaking crap. I'm also playing the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters and having so much fun with that. New World of Turnham just dropped, and I'm still trying to also put some time in leveling into Throne of Liberty. So it's like, there is a lot out there, I think, if you're looking for something to play. And it's the same time, though, the downside about what I just said is that sometimes you don't want to play something else. You want to play the thing that you want to play. And that's more No Rest for the Wicked. And I completely can understand that mindset. So, but just do yourself a favor, kind of try to balance that, because there's no point in getting angry, because unfortunately when you're going to sit and try to have water boil, guess what? Like, it's just going to take some time and you're going to have to just let them cook. And that's just where we're at. But as these updates roll out, as kind of they say, like, I do think that they should be posting more in a public space, but I will continue to cover this game for you guys and give you the latest and greatest news updates. And as Thomas dips into the culture war, so will we. But let's dive in now to what we like to wrap up our videos with, the message of hope. I think your mental health is important, and I see a massive, especially with the men out there, a mental health crisis. Now, why do we really talk about men's mental health on this channel? Well, namely 96.2 of you guys are men, and we got a 3.8% ladies out there, so welcome in. We're really glad you're here. And then obviously from the age range, we really have the biggest representation from 18 all the way up to 44 years old. So welcome in, guys. Welcome to our virtual men's group. It's not as good as the real thing, and I would always encourage you guys to do that, because iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another, and it is a good way to kind of heal from the, in a way, the craziness and the mental health inducing and causing social media that has that impact on us. But today's talk, I really want to focus in on the concept of masculinity. If you guys are needing a pickup, by the way, just let me know. You can always message me in Discord if necessary. You don't feel like making a public comment, but I want to talk to you guys today about masculinity, because I, for one, have always kind of, for the last couple of years, just quieted myself down a little bit, because constantly getting the message that being a guy is wrong, that masculinity is toxic. And I want to push back on that, because what I see happening if we think of it as a marketplace of ideas, what is kind of capturing the youth right now, which I don't think is necessarily the best thing, is this concept of this masculine dude bro, go get the gym, go have as much sex as you can and go make as much money as you can. But it's twisted in a way because it's solely focusing on the individual. Masculinity isn't in service to yourself. Masculinity is in service to others, right? So going to having sex, getting, money, building muscle, those aren't bad things. These are, in fact, good things, but they are and should be in service of the greater thing. And that is what I think true masculinity is about. So what do we mean by this? How is this, how does this translate, right? Well, you lift weights so that you are healthy, and that gives you energy and lets you play with your kids or go out and help serve the poor. That is, if you are a physically healthy, that actually also translates into hopefully a mental health, not necessarily one-to-one, but there is a relationship there. And so you want to take care of your physical health because it has all these additional effects. So it's not about just being ripped and having all the muscles in the world, because strength isn't just a physical strength. There's an intelligence strength. There's an emotional strength. There's so many different ways that you and I as guys can be strong. We all have our strengths and weaknesses, and it's very complementary. And the other thing is, having sex isn't bad, but what is it ordered for? Well, it is a beautiful thing to bring you and your spouse closer together. And there is the potential for offspring, aka children, which feeds into the lifting the weights and being a healthy and physically healthy male. And then it goes into making money. What is the purpose of money? Well, if you have a healthy relationship with money, you will think it's actually not my money. It's God's money, and I'm just here to manage it. And then when you take that approach, all of a sudden, all these things come together in service of the greater good, in service of each other as brothers, in service of women, because it isn't a men versus women. I hate when we see the men versus women. That in and of itself is a trope. We're complementary. We need each other. There is no survival without men and women, not man versus women. So it's important to really kind of think on these words. And I want to challenge you guys, especially if you've been in that, I think maybe the phrase is manosphere. I don't want to misrepresent it in one way or the other, because, men talking to men and encouraging men is a good thing. But I do think that some of the stuff online gets packaged about 80% of it's true, and then 20% of it's put girls on cams and make as much money and treat them like crap. That isn't true, but it gets packaged with, yes, you want to take care of yourself. Yes, there's nothing wrong with being a guy. You're not evil for being a guy. You can be evil, and it has nothing to do with your male or femaleness in this regard. So just note, I'm out here rooting for you. We like to talk about this stuff at the end of the videos for those of you who want it. I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to talk to you all today, and hopefully I will see you guys in my next video. But until then, take care.